Sure.
So
Do it up.
yeah, so basically, last time we spoke, and we're already live, by the way. So last time we
Hello.
spoke, the man who needs no introductions is here. So last time we spoke, we went heavy into Palantir and a lot of stuff, but we didn't really cover Tesla. And we said we're going to do this one, and we're going to talk about Tesla. Little did I know there's going to be like 57,000 topics to talk about.
For real.
Like we thought COVID was crazy, right? The shit that Elon's been doing is like, oh, I said the shit in the first 30 seconds. I'm demonetized.
Oh,
No, man.
demonetized.
Demonetized.
End it. Restart it.
No, I can't. I don't want to do it to people, bro.
Everybody, super chat them. Let's cover
No,
the
no,
gap.
don't super chat my stupidity. I forget you cannot say it in the first 30 seconds. I literally said it on the 26th second. And I was like, oh.
That's so funny.
Anyways, so where do we begin? Like, wow, what a year for Tesla. What a year for Elon. And
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah,
and you've
man.
been like in the eye of the storm, this whole thing. How are you feeling with that?
I mean, I'll be completely honest. It's been very reminiscent, for those that are not familiar maybe with my channel and who I am. And thank you again for having me on. It's always such a great time talking to you. Seriously. Somebody I really respect. And I've watched your videos for so long before you and I got to talk to each other. Sorry with the Dan Bilzerian shit from a while ago, but yeah, somebody I've always respected. So trust me, this means more than you know. For me, the Tesla stuff has been a wild ride that I've personally experienced before. So I've been in the stock since 2012. I worked at the company from 2017 to 2021, and I got to see so many roller coasters that happened with the stock, from it reaching all-time highs over and over again, to being blasted in the media, to God knows no end. To everybody fearing that the company is going bankrupt, to everybody fearing that Elon is losing his mind, to everybody fearing that Elon is jeopardizing the company with the 420 tweets and going public, to the Model 3 almost bankrupting the company, to EV never catching on, to full self-driving being a scam, so on and so forth, right? To the highest short seller percentage of any stock on the market at over 40% back in the day. Richard Hoffman, shout out. He's one of my Patreon supporters. He's phenomenal. He's on my community forums quite often. So this latest saga in the last 12 months has been very reminiscent of those times. But where it's different for me is that during those times before, I was behind the scenes. I was either an investor in Tesla or I was working at the company, and I was navigating through this mess. And it taught me a lot of skills. One of which is, don't feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable. Just be comfortable in the fact.
I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like one of those things where moments in your life where you face all these hardships, and then you come out of the other side much more well equipped to go through those. And where I'm extremely thankful is that now I have a platform on YouTube and Twitter, because of my where I've arrived with my life and all the investments I've made in myself, and from a financial perspective, from a skills perspective, where I'm incredibly blessed to have the opportunity to try and be somebody who helps others navigate through that noise. And a lot of that requires being objective about what's going on, which sometimes means not being, let's say, super supportive of some of the actions that somebody like Elon Musk or the company are doing. And I'm not saying they're wrong or right. I'm just saying, hey, this is an opposite view that I have. And helping others in the same respect realize that the things that the company or Elon are doing are not necessarily a bad thing, but they're actually a good thing for the long-term success of the company, and trying to sift through that noise as best as possible. So, yeah.
They cut your first stream, the earliest stream.
Yeah, man, it's been a fun day. I mean, it's been a lot of work, but I'm doing great, to be completely honest. I'm doing great. It's the last 12 months have been yet another time period for me to learn a lot of lessons. It reinforced I feel really proud of myself, because when I left the company and I was like, yo, I'm doing this because I want to carve my own path and I want to go on my own thing to, try to help as many people as possible. Even with Tesla dropping, 70%, 60% and all this noise around me, I'm still able to do what I want, which is like something that people, like a very small percentage of the population, is able to do. And I get to do it.
Almost
like, how can I
gets
not
to do
be
it.
exactly.
That's called a
You
job
know,
for a reason. Like people
exactly.
don't enjoy a job. I mean,
Yeah,
you know what they say? Like, what's the old saying, right? Love what you do and not work a day in your life.
exactly. That's where I'm at.
So
It's wild. It's weird.
it's
Yeah.
I always say that YouTube been like it's always kind of been like it's the toughest job I ever had, but it's the most fun
Mm,
I've been having with actually working ever.
mm,
So, and I noticed you've been taking YouTube more seriously lately, which is
I
you've
have.
been ramping up.
I
That's
have. I
tough.
really
People
have.
don't realize how tough it is.
It's like 17 jobs in one. You have to be a camera person. You have to be hello. You have to be a camera person. You have to be an audio person. You have to be an editor. You have to be a lighting guy. You have to be a like a background guy. Like you have to figure out what best works for the medium that you're doing. You have to be a writer and a script writer. You have to be a good communicator. You have to be good at analyzing your success. You have to be good at taking feedback that sometimes you don't like to hear. You have to understand a little bit of marketing. You know, if you really do want to grow the channel, it's a bunch of entrepreneurship skill sets into one. That if you want to really take it seriously, is takes a lot of time. And I can tell you very honestly, and this is where my wife is extremely helpful, is that I spend 95%, and I shouldn't say this live with my wife maybe listening, but I spent 95% of my waking hours thinking about YouTube in some way because I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to be the most valuable person possible with the platform that I have. Forget the income source, forget the analytics. It's about how can I maximize my value for society. And that right now is very addicting to me. And literally I haven't been able to stop thinking about it. And I think it's kind of shown in my on my channel and stuff for the last say 3 to 6 months because now I feel like the latest craziness with Tesla. I feel like I can bring positive value to that what's going on, and that to me is very addicting because I feel like I'm like, oh my god, I can bring value. Holy shit, that's great. What can I do? And then it's from that the way my brain's wired is like, okay, just go crazy, obsessed with this thing. Then my wife's like, yo, chill out, like balance, like don't burn yourself out. You know, like I don't even know how you do it. You have kids and you do this channel and you're married and you somehow struck a balance on figuring out how to be a successful YouTuber and bring value to the world and also be a dad. It's like somebody like you I respect a lot because you figured out how to do it in a lot of respects. And
But you
you
have to
know,
take sacrifices. Like for example,
yeah.
I love doing the show with the Myth, the Daily Cowbell, but I've asked to step down, and he's going to be doing it with another guy right now, with my full blessing, obviously. But
Mm,
sometimes I told myself the same thing you're saying. Like I can't do this every single day for the next 5 years like that. I'm going to burn out. I just
yeah.
so like you have to find places where you cut away some of it to leave some slack for yourself.
Right.
And so I think betting on yourself is what you did with the channel is always the best idea. So when I started my channel, like it was for fun. When I went full YouTube, I had 12,000 subscribers, which is I think even less than you had when you started, right? But
Mm-hmm.
luckily, like okay, you can say I had a lucky break because I remember the Bazarian videos, right? Really helped me grow in the beginning. But you know what they say about luck, right? It's opportunity versus preparation, right? So
Exactly.
it's the same thing I had with the Bazarian videos. So I was like, oh my god, like everybody's talking about this guy's beard and steroids and the lavish lifestyle. Nobody talking about the company being a piece of garbage, like a laundromat, pretty much. And I was like, and then oh, I can really show that nobody's talking, and that's why it blew up. That's why you're blowing up because at the end of the day, the algorithm. You know what Mr. Beast always says uh, change the word algorithm, take it out, and exchange it with the word audience. And
For sure.
what dog do you have? What kind of breed do
I
you have?
have two of them. They're going crazy. There's somebody at the front door, and I think they're finally
What
coming
breed? I'm
down.
just curious.
I
Can I
have
guess
a
what do you have? Well, don't say.
please. Yeah,
I would say you
I have two,
have. Okay, are they big or small? So please give me a hint.
small and medium size.
Oh, small and medium size. By the bark, is this a bulldog?
No, not even close.
Malinois.
No.
I don't know. What? Tell me.
So we have a Chihuahua Terrier mix. He's like eight
Okay.
pounds,
Oh,
and
that's
then
the
the other
barkiness.
one,
That's the barky one.
No, the other one barks even more when there's people there.
Wow.
The other one, but she has a very high pitch like bark. She's like a mutt. She's 9 breeds. We did a DNA. She's like collie, freaking pincher.
But those
She's
are the
got some
smartest ones.
Chihuahua. Very smart. She's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's a brilliant dog. She really
The
is.
more mixture they have, the more they actually test higher in IQ.
They're healthier
Have
too.
you seen the IQ test for dogs?
No.
I've seen it, absolutely insane. So I'm a dog person, you're a dog person. So I didn't know you there's IQ testing for dogs.
I had no
And
idea
you
that
would
was
say,
the
how
case.
how the hell would they do it? So this is how they do it. Basically, you can only do it once because after that it becomes practice. You go to a fence, and there's a long fence, and at the end of the fence there's like an exit, and you stand on one end of the fence, the dog is on the other end of the fence, and you call him, and the dog either tries to go through the fence and get frustrated, or he runs around, finds the exit, and finds you, and like that's how you know. And the other
Mm.
way is you put him on a leash, you wrap the leash around the tree, and then you call him and you see if he untangles himself, and or he just fucking gets worse and worse and worse.
Gotcha.
All the dogs
Okay.
I owned would have failed these two tests miserably, bro. I can tell you for sure, bro.
That is so funny. Yeah, I would have to try that out. I think the Chihuahua food for sure fail it because he's a small dog, so there's not a lot of brain in that dog, unfortunately, because there's not a lot of room in there. But the other one, she exhibits very smart behavior, and I wouldn't be surprised if she scores well on those tests. But we'll see. You know, they're both great
Uh,
dogs. They're just so loving. Yeah.
Dan is on my committee. He's gonna be on the Zoom call later. So when we switch to the Zoom call at 4, he's gonna be on the Zoom call. I hope. 100% right. I have I'm not there yet.
Bring your
Somebody said
best dog questions.
this is how I find out Cowbell with Tom. Cowbell is not that done. The Cowbell's gonna keep going with the mid, and then another guy also Russian, and
Nice.
it's gonna be a banger show. I'm gonna be rooting for them to succeed.
Amit's doing a great job, man. I really admire
Yeah.
how hard he works.
Yeah,
He
Mid
works
is a
really
fucking
hard.
superstar. I love him, bro.
Yeah.
He's probably like the one good friend I have that I know no matter how bad I'll behave, he'll always stay my friend.
That's amazing.
And it's really tough to find, and I can appreciate it. That's
Somebody
why I
who
gave
accepts you for who you are, right?
that's why I gave him like
Yeah.
half my half, and the basically said you can take it because I absolutely love this guy. I hope he makes it.
He's great. He had me on his channel and he asked some of the best questions I've ever heard asked that were very like poignant to my background. I was like, man, you've done your research and you're asking great questions. It was a very humbling sort of moment because it meant that he actually cared. And that felt great. So I give a lot of props to him.
He's a great communicator, and
He is.
And he's such a cerebral person. I enjoy talking to him about pretty much anything. Somebody call him my YouTube wife or husband. I don't know.
Nowadays, nobody knows.
Yeah, Amit is legit. I agree to that.
For sure.
So let's switch gears here because we have limited time. So basically, the way this is going to work, I'm going to talk less and less as we go forward. The next 45 minutes, we're going to talk about Tesla and other stuff, hopefully. Once this interview is over, we're going to switch over to the second half with my Patreon community on Zoom. If you're in the Patreon community, go to the homepage. The link is there for the Zoom. And we're going to be able to do an actual Q&A because we cannot do a Q&A with 500 people in the chat. So that's how it's going to work. And also a good way for me to pump my Patreon. So, it is what it is.
You're welcome.
if you haven't signed up yet, this is you patreon.com at Tom Nash.
Prepared.
Grift me money.
I always find it hilarious when people are like, when YouTubers do that. I'm like, why are you forcing people to pay for stuff? I'm like, nobody's forcing you to do anything.
I don't care.
Bro.
Nobody's forced. Also, So, okay, changing gears for my grift. I'm going to keep it on the screen just to annoy some people.
Yeah, please.
So, okay, so let's talk about the big elephant in the room right now. I obviously have my own opinions, but I'm more curious to hear yours as far as the latest news out of Tesla. Of course, you know what I'm talking about. The price drops. It's a very divisive topic. So can you shed some light as somebody who was an executive for Tesla, multiple years in the organization, and I would call you one of the smartest people I know.
Well,
so can you shed light about the process of how this sort of strategy comes together and what's the end game here and how it's going to play out in your opinion?
Sure. That's a really good question. Yeah. The The key thing to keep in mind here is that the price decrease for Tesla implies, in my opinion, the way I see it, multiple things. The first one, which I think folks on, say, call it the bear side, on the other side, where they view this as a negative, would say, is that Tesla's demand is drying up, and thus they have to lower the price to get the same number of sales they would have the year previous. And I think that that's somewhat true. I think there is a portion where Tesla had to lower prices to ensure that they're able to sell as many or more cars as they were in the past. But we have to go back to thinking about what was the purpose of Tesla from the very beginning. What is Tesla's mission statement? To advance the advent of sustainable transport and sustainable energy generation. How do you advance the advent of sustainable transport? You just completely overrun the market with as many EVs as humanly possible. And the one thing I would point folks to is, before COVID, look at the pricing that Tesla had and look at the pricing they have now. On some of the models, it's about the same, and on some of the models, it's slightly higher. And so if you take away the last 2 years of craziness, the way I perceive this is Tesla going back to where they were before versus where they were in the last 2 years, where they could basically dictate any price they wanted to get a customer, which allowed them to have ridiculously high margins, sometimes up to 32, 33% margins. This is unheard of in the mass market vehicle segment. So what is my primary takeaway from this price decrease? What this implies, I believe, is that Tesla is now at the point where they're comfortable maxing out their production, meaning that they have all the pieces in place for the factories that they've built to reach the capacity for which they have labor and machinery for. So they've removed the battery constraints to some respects, they've removed the material constraints, so on and so forth. If you look at Tesla's earnings deck from Q3, their advertised capacity is about 2 million units per year run rate, meaning that if they had all the materials possible, all the materials necessary to build a car right now, theoretically, they could do it at a run rate of 2 million cars per year. If you look at their Q4 deliveries and production, the Q4 production was 439,000 units. Okay, a 2 million production run rate is, call it roughly 500,000 units per quarter, right? 500 Q1, 500 Q2, 500 Q3, 500 Q4. So to get from 440 to 500,000, that's like a 10, 12% increase in production year over year. In the past, Tesla has grown their production by over 50%. So all they really have to do is grow last quarter's production over time by 10 to 15%, and they're already reached 2 million cars built per year. In 2022, they built 1.35, closer to 1.4 million. So this is still a 50% growth rate year over year. And the most important part here, and I think a lot of people might be missing on the bear side, or people that might think that this price decrease is cataclysmic. And I just wrapped up a conversation with Corey from Monroe Live on my channel right before I came here, and we talked about this. Corey from Monroe Live, he's one of the most knowledgeable people that you can find around the auto industry, period. One of the things that people might miss is that if Tesla is able to produce 2 million cars plus per year out of its factories, the price decrease is not a direct correlation to the margin drop. So just because Tesla dropped prices 15, 20% does not imply that they've lost that much in margin as well. What it means is that if there are enough customers to buy 2 million cars in that year at 2023, which if you've tracked their inventory levels right now, there's every signal that says there are, economies of scale will kick in, which means that their overall cost will come down dramatically the more cars they ship. Not to mention, the auto market year over year is down 8%. What does this mean? What does this imply? Inventory glut at suppliers, inventory glut at other manufacturers, deflation in the supply chain. And this is a great thing for Tesla to leverage to get new contracts with suppliers to lower their costs even further. And the other thing that we make sure we don't miss out is that what's Tesla's their true differentiator between every other manufacturer is their simplicity of manufacturing and how quickly they're willing to move to make production as efficient and as fast as humanly possible, which every other legacy automaker does not have. They're incentivized to do the opposite. They're incentivized to build complexity, to try and like take out this part and introduce this part, to offer all these trim levels. All this does is introduce complexity, which culminates in the fact that even if Tesla were to drop, which they did, 15 to 20% of their pricing, if you really sit down and run the numbers, their margin goes from 28% to 23%. So there's only a 500 basis points drop in margin, but now you're shipping 50% more units, which implies a higher net margin, net profit dollars versus where you were before. Which, if you're any other automaker, you're looking at that, you're like, okay, so you can still have over 20% margins and shipping 2 million cars. What the hell am I supposed to do, right? So, yeah, so those are my thoughts. What are yours?
Ishan, I think you introduced him to my channel, and he's always been
Ishan's great.
Such a vocal supporter, and he's going to be on the Patreon Zoom call, by the way. So,
fantastic. Yeah, Ishan's on our forums from time to time. He's great. I love Ishan.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a super cool donation. So what I wanted to show for everybody here is a few things. Number one, let's talk some data points here, and I want to get your take on this.
Sure.
So, okay, so I'm looking at Wikipedia, not even going like out of no numbers made up, no nothing.
Yeah.
So looking at Wikipedia right here, this is the launch price of the Model Y base. Yeah. 43,200. Which I'm kind of shocked he didn't launch it at 42,690.
I know.
Why not, man? That would have been a brilliant
dummy.
Yeah. So,
or 42069 would have been even better.
There's a lot of so much wasted opportunities for a meme. But so
sorry, this is Model Y or Model 3? Model Y?
Model Y base launch price, right? So $43,200. So they launched at this price. So obviously we know that the current price level was 66,000. I don't remember what was selling this year before the drop.
It was 64,000 for all-wheel drive long range. Yeah.
So 64. So it's been selling for $20,000 more than the original launch price, right? So
no. So I'm comparing the all-wheel drive long range, which was 64,000. So it would be that 60,190. Yeah, there you go. Because the rear-wheel drive, they haven't been selling it for a really long time. So they kind of got out of that trim. So the most popular trim was the long range all-wheel drive that they've been selling.
The model in question that everybody is focused on, the one with the $20,000, with the 20% discount, with a $13,000 discount, was the base. The base comes with or just rear-wheel drive.
No, it was an all-wheel drive long range. Yeah. So if I send you, let me send you a link here in the private chat. Here we go.
Let's pull up the discount. Okay.
Yeah. Here we go. So let me go ahead and share this in private chat. If you can pull this
You can share your screen. I can pull it up.
Oh, perfect. Even better.
So we don't have to do it like this.
Perfect.
Show me.
Present, share screen. Boom.
Okay, walk me through it then.
There you go. So the rear-wheel drive Model 3 had a 6.4% drop. But here, this is probably the one you're talking about, right? Model Y long range is now 52,999 from 65,999, a 20% drop.
That's the 20% drop. So, okay, so it came on the long range.
Yeah.
So that launched at 6,200, right?
Yep.
Okay. So launch price was $60,000, 200. Current price
53.
53. And then the rear-wheel drive launched at 43,200, and it's now it's 44.
That's the Model 3. So the Model Y rear-wheel drive.
There's no such thing anymore, right? They don't make it anymore. Got it. Okay. Yep. So basically, we're talking about a drop from $60,000 on launch to about $53,000 now, just for the EV tax credit, obviously.
Correct.
So okay. So now I understand the numbers. So now I want to pull up this chart, and I want people to see it. Thank you for the information. That's actually very helpful.
My pleasure.
Okay, now I want to pull up this chart, and I want to show the principle of what I was talking about. So this is the chart that makes all the sense in the world if you look at it. Basically, every product you sell, right, it has a price point of ideal price. Basically, at this price, you sell the most amount of product for the most amount of profit, right? Because let's say I reduce the price of a Model Y to $20,000. I'm going to sell a lot of units, but I'm going to be losing money. There's like it's below the break-even price. So this point reflects what would be my break-even price for Tesla Model Y or Model 3 or whatever, right? This point basically says, well, if you sell each car for $100,000, the margin is going to be insane, but you're not going to sell enough cars. So then at the end of the day, you're still going to be basically manufacturing just too little capacity and losing money on every car because unit costs go down the more cars you make, right? Ask Toyota with their 10 million cars, right?
Yep.
So all my point is that although I was off on the numbers, but we got from this point in 2019, I think, when they launched it. I'm not sure what was there.
I
This
believe
was
you're right.
so the 2019, I think, reflects the real equilibrium, like Gauss ideal price point, which was $43,000. We kept going up on this chart because Tesla couldn't make enough of them. I know people like Justin from one of my friends who you also know from Money Talks. So he waited for his well, it was I think a performance, but still he waited for his like for more than 8 months.
Mhm.
So they couldn't make enough of them. They couldn't make enough of them. So they hiked up the prices. As you do, everybody does that, right? If there's too much demand and there's too little of goods, that's how we got inflation pretty much, right? So they hiked up the demands. The car went up to almost $70,000. If you take everything considered, it's a $70,000 car.
Yep.
Now, okay. So now what happens? The government says, well, look, we will give a $7,500 tax credit, but not to you, not to this model, which is Tesla's best-selling model, except the Model 3, probably better than the Model 3.
Much better.
And then Tesla says, well, you know what? We just have two factories right now that have been, one was drowning in bureaucracy, the other one was drowning in governmental policy about zero COVID. Both of them are kind of unlocked right now, and we can really ramp up fast. So you know what we can do? We can go back to this price point, which you didn't think we can, and we can sell actually more cars at still a great price to us, and you're going to subsidize a big chunk of it, so we can actually even place it here. We'll place it here,
Yep.
and then you guys will place it here at 53,000, and you guys will take us to 45, which is our ideal price, and you'll pay for
Yep.
it.
Yep.
And this is exactly what they're doing with this thing. And to me, it's kind of obvious. It's 101 economics. So if you look at the launch price, that you know the equilibrium point for that, it's a $45,000 vehicle at best
Yep.
if you have full ramp up. So they basically said, okay, and the only reason that Tesla can do it, and I think GM won't be able to do it properly, and Ford, I don't think they're interested because they can't make enough of these cars anyways. But that's a whole discussion. So if they could theoretically make enough lyrics and the Mach E's, whatever, not knocking on these cars, they haven't seen one on the road. I mean, the lyric at all. But if they couldn't have done that push from like a $13,000 discount because they're operating on a 10% margin, gross margin. It's the margin is already murderous. So with Tesla, you're operating on 24% margin, gross margin, right? So you have a lot more room to squeeze out the competition like that, and especially if you're getting subsidized, so you don't have to take it all the way to this point. You can take it here, and actually you get to keep your high margins, so they don't have to slash the margins and sell it as if it's a $45,000 car. I think it's a brilliant move. I'm shocked that this was not discussed properly by anybody else except you on the Twitter sphere, and I don't know why. Like, how
Me
analysts
too, man.
like? Do you find it shocking that analysts miss this?
It's so surface level, right? I feel like it's when people look at Tesla, when they see price decrease, I just what goes through my mind is that 80% of any profession is filled with people that don't want to do enough diligence to find out what's actually going on. And it's not a knock on the individual person. It's just that's just how it works. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that has changed even from that time, what are the three things that have changed from that time? The Austin factory is ramping up. The Berlin factory is ramping up. And now we have an EV tax credit that has also kicked in, which is going to help lower the overall price of this car. So you put those three things together from 2019, you have mechanisms that are going to basically ensure that if there was any sort of demand shortfall, that it doesn't exist because of pricing, because Tesla hasn't been able to take advantage of the EV tax credit since 2018.
Yeah, because there were
Since
caps, right? There was caps on
exactly.
yeah.
So now Tesla is all of a
It's
sudden in
funny how they try
2023.
to screw them with caps and then with the UAV thing, and then now
It's
with the
so weird, dude.
it's
It's
every
so
time they
weird.
try to screw with them, but this time Tesla got the better of them actually with that. They never I don't think anybody thought Tesla would just drop 20%.
I agree. I agree. But it's the that's the signal, because I work there. I know the mentality of what Tesla's going through. Tesla's like, you know what? F you. Like, you're gonna try to stop us from advancing the world to moving into sustainable transport. F you. And the reason why they can say that is because they have the scale. They have the scale to ship 2 million EVs per year plus, and they have the scale to get 20%
Do they
margin
now have
plus.
2 million capacity?
They do. They do. Yeah. Just in
It's a
Q4,
tough
they
ramp up.
produced
It's a
440.
yeah, I know they're on pace. I know they're on pace, but I mean,
Yeah.
it's a tough ramp up because there's a lot of shit that can happen over the next 12 months. I mean, or 9 months rather. So, right, because we're
They have
gonna
the
measure.
scale. All you need is just the pricing. If in Q4 they're already shipping 440 cars in that quarter, you times that by 4, you're already at 1.76, 1.8 million cars per year. You just have to increase your production by 10, 15%. But you have Austin and Berlin that basically had no sales last year. You know what I'm saying? So like, this is the part of the equation that I think folks are missing. Is like, there's still hundreds of thousands of cars that could be teed up through Tesla's production to get it lined up. The production, the supply portion is there, right?
I love
The
this
supply
comment.
portion is there. What is it? You're forgetting that important fact. GM created and leads. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Mary Barra.
of
How can we
course.
forget about her?
How can we
Oh,
forget? Are you
she's the
afraid
goat.
from now? There's issues with the price drop like this because you know how there's always price differentiation. Like you don't want to sell first class tickets for like 10% above coach. You want to
Yeah.
basically be. So are you afraid of cannibalization of Model 3 because of how low the Y is now? Like if you can get it at
No.
55,000, 56,000, like
Well,
Model
the
Y
Model
long
3 is
range.
lower now too. So like, the starting base Model 3 is now $35,000, $36,000. I did a video yesterday where I compare the 8-year ownership cost of the Model 3 right now with the new price decrease in the IRA tax credit, and I compared it to a starting base Toyota Camry LE that's starting at $29,000, and the Model 3 is $800 cheaper over 8 years than that Toyota Camry. So that's the kind of pricing. Cheaper
$800
to run.
per year.
No, total cheaper.
Okay.
Yeah, a $43,000 Tesla with a charging network is cheaper to operate over 8 years than a Toyota Camry, a $28,000 car.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me this. Assuming that this leads to a spike in demand,
Mhm.
so and everybody who was sitting on the fence waiting for the EV tax credit to clear up actually goes and executes on the desires, which I'm sure a lot of
Mhm.
people were waiting.
Mhm.
What happens next? I mean, here's my main concern. So I'm I'm a huge bull, and I love what Tesla's doing.
Sure.
So what happens if obviously in the US it's a done deal, but if Tesla wants to kind of breach non-US markets, that supercharger network is just it's not on US level anywhere else. I mean, if they want to create this monopoly like they have like for charging in the US pretty much, right? Because if you've been to a Tesla supercharger station, I mean, you don't want to go anywhere else obviously because
Sure.
you're going from a from a Ferrari to a horse and carriage.
Sure.
But that doesn't exist like that in other parts of the world, like not in Europe. It doesn't mean like Tesla has a lot of fucking capex in infrastructure to invest. A lot of there's more factories, so they have a like very challenging next couple of years. It's not like they're gonna be like this isn't the modus operandi of Elon Musk just to sit and say, "Oh, we'll just make 2 million cars a year for the next 3 years and just print money." He's not gonna be doing that. He's gonna be trying to
Right.
push next.
Yeah.
So and when you try to push like that, that basically it comes a lot of risk. So are you not like at
So
least
is
at
the
the
risk
very
that they're going too much?
no. I'm just saying a lot of capex ahead for this company. I
Okay.
mean, they're sitting on a pile of cash,
Mhm.
but you're gonna have to spend a lot over the next 5 years. Like
Okay.
at least how many more factories do they have to build in the next 5 years?
Probably at least 6 more if they want to get to 20 million per year. Probably
So
6
how
billion.
much that? How much is that in billions? Like what? Like,
So it's about 2 billion per factory to get it up and running before it starts generating cash.
and that's
So
without
8
like
billion,
the training cost, the like all the
everything.
everything.
2 billion. It's about 2 billion. Yeah. So it's about 2 billion per factory. And if they need 6 more, that's $12 billion, which is roughly, they can generate that type of cash flow in probably in 2023 if
Well,
margins
they have
don't.
it. They have the cash.
Yeah.
They have the
Well,
cash.
they do.
So,
But they also want to do a buyback, though. That's the thing.
well, that's Gary Black's wet dream. How long you think until we see that push for Europe to have US level of superchargers where it's like a gas station?
Well,
Because
the
like
thing about Europe, yeah, the
the
thing about
experience
Europe
is
is,
different in Europe. People like in Europe, it's different. It's not like a US level. It's like pretty much like a gas station. It's everywhere. It's so easy. Like, when do
yeah.
you think that happens? That reality comes.
I mean, so the thing about Europe is it's still going to be country to country specific, right? Because different countries have different levels of EV adoption. So, for example, Norway, Denmark, these are the Scandinavian countries have a very high percentage of their population has adopted EVs already up through this point. Like, I think I'm probably misquoting this, but I think Norway or Denmark is already more than 50% of new car sales is EVs. The UK is up to over 20% of new car sales as EVs. But the one thing in Europe is that the governments there have already invested quite a bit in the overall charging infrastructure. So the supercharger network might not have this insane differentiator that it does in the US, but it's still the most reliable, most commonly used charging network for a specific brand by far in Europe. But there are other options you can use. However, I don't see this as a negative for Tesla. I see this as a positive for EV adoption, and it's for cars that can come in and sell EVs. They know that in Europe they're much better outfitted to take advantage of this supercharger network. So for me, I think it gives Tesla less of a chance to capitalize on the monopoly they have in the U.S. Right, so they can't just say we are the dominating charging infrastructure, and we're going to have to give it up to whoever else potentially will just become one of the players. Plus, European regulations are going to force Tesla to play nice. It's kind of like the whole iPhone Lightning port debacle, where now they have to have a USB port because it's being mandated by the European legislation, right? It's going to be something similar with Tesla. But the way I view it is that Europe is much better equipped to absorb EV adoption, and that ultimately helps Tesla. It helps any company that's able to scale production for a mass market affordable electric vehicle. And the more chargers you have, the more people will be able to take advantage of it, and that's great. So in that respect, it just becomes a question of what are Tesla's long-term profit and margin potential as the gas car fleet switches over to EV, when over 97%, over 96% of the entire world's fleet is still gas cars, and it's 3-4% electric. There's still so much time to go before we reach, say, max EV capacity. And up to that point, the more chargers we have for people to take advantage of an EV, the better. And within that respect, I think Tesla benefits regardless.
But in some countries, it's changing. I mean, Norway. You mentioned Norway. I think I saw a stat. I mean, you posted a stat where 1 in every 3 new cars sold in the UK is electric now. I think, did you post it? Somebody else posted it.
It's 22% of all new cars in the UK are
Yeah.
electric. Yeah,
So
which is a lot.
Yeah, so you can see the trend actually developing. But this is a good point to cover, because you mentioned, like, okay, so EV adoption and TAM is pretty much in its diapers, and I agree. But I'm assuming you saw the video by Peter Zeihan. Everybody's been tagging me in that video.
No, I
Talking about,
stopped listening to him. I don't find his analysis useful.
so he made a video about Tesla specifically, but more on the general side, pretty much saying that there's not enough raw materials, there's not enough infrastructure, there's not enough basically to go around to support 10 million, 15, 20 million EVs on the roads, on the grid, etc., etc. Basically, shortages of raw materials, and he wasn't like exclusively saying it cannot happen, but he was saying there's a lot of infrastructure, raw materials questions that need to be answered. I think he
Sure.
was more talking about Um,
Lithium, cobalt, all these raw materials.
yeah, but he was talking more about industrial EV adoption because he said in that video. I watched the video,
Mhm.
and he said in that video that for light vehicles, it's definitely a great solution. But he was basically saying, well, how industry will adopt this if we can't support the blah blah. So I mean, you're a very analytical person. I mean,
Mhm.
beyond the fact, obviously, not his biggest fan, but is what he's saying completely preposterous in your opinion?
So the way I'm hearing that is that based on the capacity of production and refining of raw materials that we have today, that there's not enough for us to support an EV future across all respects, industrial and say whatever commercial and consumer based. And he's probably right. I mean, right now where we stand today, there's going to be. I mean, everybody's sort of raising this alarm bells that say within 3 to 5 years we're going to hit a giant shortage of materials for EVs if the growth rate is expected to continue, because the raw material processing and refining has not kept up with the adoption and the demand of EVs, which is going to cause this, they call it the valley of death. You're going to have this sort of like dip that goes in, and as the production needs to be ramped up to do that, you're going to have less cars sold, which theoretically would increase the supply side, which will also increase the demand side pricing, right? So, but that doesn't mean that there can't be solutions put in place to figure out how to move forward, just like we have in the past. I mean, how many times have we reached a local maximum for some sort of supply? I don't know, when we were freaking mass producing CDs. Did we have enough materials at that point to make enough CDs? Of course not. But did an entire industry come up to try and support that growth? Of course. And if you follow people like Jordan Gisigi from The Limiting Factor, he does a ton of deep dives on battery supply specifically and how there's going to be a giant shortage. But there are ways to alleviate the shortage through ramping up refining and ramping up the mining of these raw materials. So recycling is another huge one, as well as new chemistries and new materials as well to be used in a lot of these batteries. So I largely see those data points as you're
Wasn't one of
extrapolating
the
out.
guys who used to be like a Tesla executive started a battery recycling company? I
Yeah,
forgot
JB
the name.
Straubel. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that's like I saw him. He sounds super smart.
he's brilliant. Yeah, he found it. He kind of joined with Elon when they first joined Tesla back in 2006, and they bought the paperwork from those other two guys. So they're pretty close, Elon and JB for sure. He started
They don't like
Redwood
they don't like
Materials.
Elon. They don't like Elon, bro.
Oh, Martin
Yeah,
Tarpening and those guys. Yeah,
but
Elon hasn't said nice things about him.
I did you
Yeah.
see the documentary when they were talking about him?
I saw clips of it. Yeah, they're like,
Yeah.
he's sort of this idiot or whatever. I don't remember
No,
what he
no.
was saying, but
Look, they can't talk too much because I mean, I'm assuming they're still
NDAs, yeah.
shareholders, NDAs,
Yeah.
lawyers. They have a vested interest in the company, but
Sure.
I mean, that's kind of. Do you think that you know how they did 5 years ago? They did that movie about the McDonald's brothers called The Founder,
Mm.
about Ray
Hmm.
Kroc. Like, do you think in 50 years people are gonna make like The Founder for Elon Musk and Tesla, the whole story with these two
Of
guys? And
course. Of
it's like,
course. I mean,
who would
I
you
think
cast to play Elon Musk?
oh my God, what a question. It has to be somebody who's very good at acting awkward in front of people, because Elon is a very awkward person. Um,
I would cast Pedro Pascal.
oh, that's a great pick. That's a
Yeah, I
great
think he
pick.
could be a great Elon, bro.
He's such a good actor.
Yeah.
I loved him as the in Game of Thrones. He was the
Prince
Martell.
Oberyn
Yeah,
Martell. Yeah.
yeah. He was great in that role. He's such a good
He,
actor. That's a
Agent
great
Agent
one.
Pena from Narcos.
That's good too. Yeah,
And
that's good too. Yeah, that's a good question.
oh, he was just
Yeah,
on the. I just watched a movie with him.
The Last of Us.
That's a whole different top. That's a video in its
Yeah.
own. How insanely good that was. Um, yeah, I was like, I'm gonna binge watch this, and then I forgot HBO Max
No
started on Blu-ray.
spoilers. We haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's talk about it in a second. So
Yeah.
he just did a movie with Nicolas Cage called the Unbearable Burden of Insane Talent or something like that. I don't know, remember the title, but
Okay.
basically, like Nicolas Cage is playing himself, and he's like a failing actor, no money, and
That's awesome. That's so meta.
and he's like he's taking every possible role offered. He's like doing like supporting and basically he runs out of money, and then Pedro Pascal, he's a billionaire, and it's like, come to my birthday, I'll give you $1 million, and then he reluctantly agrees.
Wow,
And they get stoned out of their mind and just go like absolutely on this rampage
that's
adventure.
amazing. That's
And
amazing.
yeah. But
Yeah.
anyways, but what do you mean no spoilers? Have you not seen the game?
No, I haven't beat the game yet. No.
Wait,
Yeah,
what?
we haven't. I
Wait,
know. I just heard amazing things about it. I know, trust me.
it's been out for like
1,000 years.
it's been
Yeah.
out from PlayStation 3.
Yeah. So what's funny is my wife plays video games and she's been playing it, and I'll sometimes watch her play it. But then just it she stopped, and then I kind of lost interest, and I haven't had, a lot of time to play video games, and it's like, but I love video
It's not
games,
a video game.
but
It's I
it's like a
never.
story, right?
It's like a story. It's an incredible
Yeah.
story. I
Yeah.
I, I think it's the best video game ever created. But it's more of an interactive story. You get to just
Yeah.
um yeah.
I've
But
heard people
anyway,
call it that. Yeah. But
it's
anyway, the supply, there's no
yeah,
problem in the supply.
yeah.
Yeah, there's no problem with supply. I don't think
Okay,
so.
you will come when we do part 2 on your channel.
Yeah.
Watch episode 1 by then, and I guarantee you're gonna cry.
Okay. All right.
And if you
You're gonna
don't
make me
cry,
cry?
I'll give you $100. If you didn't cry, I'll give you 100, bro, on air.
Okay. Honor system?
Yes, of course. It's like that Seinfeld bit when they promised not to.
Yeah.
You remember? And
Yeah.
George lied, and then the plane was crashing at the final episode,
Yeah.
and it's like, I cheated on the, and they're like, you lost. What do you mean you cheated?
Yeah.
I still
Regardless of
cheated.
how dire the
Yeah.
consequences are. That's hilarious. Yeah. Yeah, man.
No, he cheated and he still lost. And they're like,
Oh, he's still.
he didn't win the bet,
I
and
don't
he still
recall this.
cheated.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyways,
Okay.
so moving on from that, yeah, HBO did not screw it up. All I'm gonna say,
Good.
it's it's no
So-
problem at all.
Great to
Although this it has an expiration date, because part 2, Last of Us Part 2 was complete hot garbage, the game, and assuming they'll adapt it, it's gonna be just as bad.
Oh, bummer. Okay.
But the first season is gonna be absolutely insane.
Okay.
Anyways, moving on. Back to the topic at hand. We have about 15 minutes left, so let's keep it going. So, if you had to bet on anybody else besides Tesla, who's your number 2 in the EV industry in the next 10 years?
I think BYD is probably best positioned.
Yes, I agree with that.
I think BYD is probably
Spot
best
on.
positioned. Yeah.
Spot on.
And the reason why is because number one, they have government backing. Number
For
two,
now.
for now, yeah. But they have the scale to ship a lot of EVs. They have a competitive product within its marketplace that's performing really well in the BYD Seal and the other models as well. They have the experience, and they haven't entered any other market except the Chinese market really in earnest, right?
Well, they do sell around the world. They have sales out of China, but
they're not
in-
significant, are they?
Not significant. No, they're selling in a
Yeah.
few markets. But I agree with you. They're fully integrated, vertically integrated,
Yeah.
battery technology they have in house. They've been making cars for a long time.
Yeah.
They have the know-how. The only problem is they're in China. That's
Right.
the one thing you would agree with Peter Zehan. That's the one country it's a problem to have a company in.
Yeah.
You never know. The risks are just too insane.
So
Like,
I
how do you
spoke with
quantify this risk? You know what I mean?
when I spoke with Corey earlier today from Monroe, he thinks that the Chinese automakers will probably, they sell in Europe as well. They will probably start making an earnest push to enter a market like the US in, like, say the next 2 to 3 years, like start to make a push and maybe reach scale by the end of the decade, which in my opinion bodes really badly for every single legacy automaker, because all the legacy automakers are saddled with incredible amounts of debt and bureaucracy, and they don't have the culture of innovation that, forget BYD, but companies like a Tesla have, that is going to require them to completely redo the way they have done business forever, and to in the same token, in the case of German and US automakers, really mostly all automakers, they have to deal with the union. They have to deal with a union workforce that is going to be up in arms when they realize that manufacturing an EV requires less than half of the human labor as a gas car. Good luck. So what does that mean? Your system is inherently outfitted to build in redundancy when building vehicles, and you're not going to be able to do that profitably at scale, especially in the lower markets, which is what I predict would happen. And here's my prediction, and we can come back to this in like 8 years or 7 years. My prediction is that every single legacy automaker, if they do survive, is going to be a niche automaker. They're going to ship no more than 500,000 cars per year. And they're going to go from, say, like a Volkswagen is doing, your Volkswagen brand and your Porsche brand and et cetera, 8 million, 9 million cars per year. I don't think they're going to be at those levels. I think in 8 years' time, they're going to be shipping maybe 2 million units per year, scaling down to 500,000 over time. Companies like Ford and GM, if they want to survive, they're going to have to do the same thing, because I don't think it's going to be possible for those types of companies to mass manufacture EVs at an affordable level for the mass market. And as your cost per mile goes down with an EV, that means you're not just going to be selling 100 million cars per year. You're going to be selling 200 million cars per year, 250 million cars per year as a total global fleet. And the companies that are best capable of shipping those mass market vehicles in the market, like your Teslas and probably your BYDs, and probably any new entrants in the field, those are the companies that are going to be able to do that, while the rest of them are going to have to get rid of hundreds of billions of dollars of assets and liabilities to be able to get to that point. And that's going to require going through all kinds of restructuring and, forget bankruptcy. So I don't see how the math lines up for these guys. And this is no disrespect to people working there. It's just math. It's just math. So
look at how little success they had at putting out just cars that don't explode, don't catch fire at scale at a reasonable price. Like,
can I give you a stat that like drives this home? Like, let me give you this stat. The Ford Mach-E, launched around the same time as the Model Y. It launched about 6 months later. The Model Y right now in the US.
I saw you talk about it on Twitter. Yeah,
exactly. Sold over 300,000 units at least, and the Mach-E only 28,000. And they started at the same exact time. They're in the same exact category, and they're selling at basically the same price. Now the Model Y is cheaper, and the Model Y has a supercharger network. And you're telling me the legacy automaker has know-how?
The only people who would want to buy that car, again,
it's a great car too. It's a nice car.
No, I've seen it in person. If I'm look, I don't believe there's loyalty in the auto industry, and like except Tesla, because Tesla have created, at least in part, this cult brand around them, like Apple does with iPhones. So I don't know any, like, obviously there's F-150 people, there's Chevy people. I get it, but like Tesla has created this cult around the brand, which I feel is at least worth 500,000 units a year. That's just starting out without even saying anything. Anything above it it's zero loyalty. It's just utilitarian purchases. So I'm looking at this as a utilitarian purchase with no brand loyalty, and I'm saying, okay, so what are my considerations if I've already decided to buy a vehicle? Okay, gas prices going up, inflation going up. I don't care about pollution, blah blah blah. I'm just playing like the regular American, right?
80% of the people.
Yeah. So basically, like, okay, if I buy this electric vehicle, my gas prices, gas expenditures will go dramatically down, like insanely down. Okay, and now I can pretty much charge it at any gas station level of stuff and have a cup of coffee, 10 minutes, get out the door, and I can charge it home. It doesn't have anything that breaks down. It doesn't have an alternator. It doesn't have an engine. It doesn't have a gearbox that breaks down. It doesn't have there's nothing that breaks in it. It's battery, brakes, and wheels in the box. So
safer.
Yes, it's definitely, we saw that what happened, 250-foot cliff, 4 people drop, nobody gets even seriously hurt. So it's safer. You've seen the Euro NCAP results for Tesla. They're the best in the category easily. So it's safer, it's cheaper, it drives faster if you like that sort of thing. The only thing I would say that prevents Tesla from hitting it big right now is 3 things. Okay, and you would agree with me here. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to one of my haters. I like to highlight some of my haters. Bob is one of my haters. and he's still here. And I appreciate you, Bob. So he's been calling me names
Shut up,
in the
Bob.
chat, but he's actually in his very disrespectful way, which is obviously always welcome here. He's actually raising a good point. Tesla has a key man risk, in my opinion, which we can talk about later
Sure.
on the Zoom. But thank you for that point, Bob. Although I think you could have made it a little bit more elegant way. But yes, thank you.
He
for
says
that.
when Elon Musk dies.
Yeah,
I
well,
love it. That's
it's like-
dark.
he doesn't know Elon is an alien.
Jeez.
Also, so anyways, so thank you, Bob. We appreciate even the haters here in the chat. So all the boxes are checked for an electric vehicle, and I'm saying, okay, which electric vehicle, right? And then I'm saying, okay, there's one with supercharger network. There's one with the best software as far as driver assist systems, as far as navigation to superchargers, as far as basically maintenance upgrades, the surveillance, the auto security, sentry mode, whatever, whatnot, games for kids in the car, whatever. So software is the best, charging is the best, etc., etc., etc. And it's proven, like, as far as, look, there's so much documentation on Teslas. I have a friend who got locked out of, I'm not going to say which, but a Chinese vehicle, Chinese EV. He got locked out. He was in a charging station, sorry, and his charger just would not release, no matter
Wow.
what he done. So, and he couldn't find anything online. There's nobody to call. There's no like customer support which you can call like in America. So there's nobody, like, he was like, so I was on him with the phone. He's like, dude, there's nothing about this on the internet. There's nobody to talk to, no forums, no customer support. And then we figured it might be just you have to get away from the car. Just go far. Maybe you just get away from the car to reset. And he got away with the key fob. He walked like 10 minutes, came back, and it released.
Whoa.
But that's not it. But
What
that's not yeah, I mean, glitches happen in every software, right? But I mean, if in a Tesla there's such an ecosystem that you can get a solution right now.
Sure.
Yes, maintenance and body work and customer support can use help. They're not perfect, obviously, but I mean, that's way better than buying like a Chinese brand because you don't know anything about it. So I'm saying, like, it's very hard for me to see who's going to be buying anything else but a Tesla in the US, unless like they're like super like filled with hate towards the brand, which is okay as well. I get it. Some people won't buy a Chevy or a Ford, and that's fine. But I'm saying the one thing Tesla miss, it's the trinity of the sacred trinity. They need a truck ASAP, which is a huge money on the table being left every single year. They have to have it on the market as soon as possible. Number two, they need a 7-seater, a proper 7-seater. The Model Y is not a good 7-seater. I'm sorry. It's a good 5-seater with plenty of storage. As a 7-seater, it's not good enough for a family with 4 kids. It's not going to work. And the third thing they need an entry-level vehicle. They need that, you mentioned earlier, the Toyota Corolla, that's the gold standard. They need to knock it off that pedestal that's been on for the past 40 years. And once they hit those 3 points, everything I said in the beginning, plus those 3 points, Tesla is going to go absolutely berserk. And the same idiots who are telling, well, wait for it to drop for 80, 70, 60, 50, they're going to be pouring in, FOMOing at 200, 300, 400. And basically the same people who weathered the storm and stayed in the stock are going to be saying, it's like, no surprise here. I mean, we just stayed in because of the technology. It's the one thing I think you would agree with Warren. I know you have a lot of disagreements with Warren, but you and Warren are actually a lot more alike than you would think because he only looks at the technology. He never we never once talked about the share price on the stream.
Right. Exactly.
And all, like, I can tell who is a real like Tesla expert if I don't hear anything about the share price because you guys don't care. You have zero interest in the share price.
It's inconsequential to me. Doesn't matter. It's about like product differentiation, right?
Yeah.
So the 3 things you mentioned are great call outs, and I couldn't agree more with you that those are extremely important for Tesla's long-term success. So we know the pickup truck's coming, right, with the Cybertruck. Hopefully it's this year. All signs point to that being the case, and I think once that launches, not if, when that launches, it's a surefire success because that is a freaking billboard on wheels. It's going to. Have you ever seen the Cybertruck in person?
You know what a surefire success is? The Chevy Volt.
What?
Bolt. Sorry. The
Bolt,
yeah,
sure.
Bolt,
yeah.
Surefire success.
A surefire.
Surefire success. Yes. So,
have you ever seen the Cybertruck in person?
I haven't, but everybody like who's a classic truck guy, I showed him to him. The initial response was like, nah. And then I showed him the clip with Jay Leno. And they're like, oh.
Wait until you see it in person. Waiting
You
to
know
see
what
it
I
in
mean?
person.
And like I
Yeah.
showed them the thing, and they're like, "Oh, this is
Yeah.
the," because the initial reaction of a classic truck guy is like,
Yeah.
like they can
Yeah.
stomach a Rivian, they can't stomach something like that, but we just didn't have enough of them actually like being on the road. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
gonna be
Once
insane.
this thing, I'm telling you, man, once this thing's on the road, it's going to send, it's underrated how big of an impact this is going to have. Of course, I'm a Tesla fanboy, crazy person, whatever you want to call me. But I'm telling you guys, once you see this thing in person, your mind will change. That's one. The compact, thank you, Teddy. The compact car we know is in the works. So hopefully in the next year or two that will be launched. And the middle one, which is the really good one that you brought up, is that like large capacity vehicle. I couldn't agree more with you. And my gut tells me it's in the works as well, but we have to wait for it to see if it's actually launched. But I don't see why, because they would have to platform in the pickup truck instead of making a pickup truck, just make it into a high capacity vehicle and go from there. So the drivetrain and the chassis is there. You just got to put the right body on there. Yeah.
I think that the one thing you could, Olivia, thank you, Oliver, sorry, Oliver Queen, thank you for the $20 donation. We really appreciate it. I think you sent it twice by accident, or at least
Well,
on my end it appears twice, but it might be a mistake. Yeah, on my end it shows twice, but I'm assuming it happened once. The one thing about the Cybertruck is no matter whether you like it or you hate it, because you always have like people saying, "Oh, it's like super ugly." Uh, like this guy, for example, living example. Nobody stays indifferent to it. Nobody says,
yep.
meh. It's either you love it or you hate it. And to me, it's not about if the Cybertruck is amazing or not, or beautiful or not. The problem is that you know what they say: you want to win the lottery, you got to buy the ticket. So the ugliness of the truck is irrelevant. You got to be in the game, my guy. That's the number one category in North America: trucks. F-150 is a generational brand making car. You have to be able to compete in that category. It's in America because it's that's the category to be in, and you're not in it. So at least like that's the one thing I'm super pumped about to see the Cybertruck on.
Yep, yep. It's gonna send shockwaves, man. And I'm willing to bet, and the person I really respect their opinion.
Look, another hater is
Cybertruck
fictional.
is fiction. Okay, yeah. Listen, you're more than willing to, you're more than welcome to have your wrong opinion. I'm just kidding. You're more than welcome to have your opinion. It's just, it's. I think it will surprise a lot of. That's all I'm gonna say about the Cybertruck. I think I've seen it in person. I know the production is going in, and I know it's going to get delivered at some point, hopefully this year. But I have full confidence that it's going to be by far Tesla's most successful
Oh,
product line ever.
you before you go and we go to the Zoom. By the way, we're switching to the Zoom in a minute, and
Yeah.
if you want to watch the Zoom, it's here. Grift me, grift me,
Grift him.
grift me. So before we move on to the Zoom, I want my first reaction when I saw this car. It's like this shit reminds me of the DeLorean, for some
Yeah.
reason, because
It's the same material.
it's stainless steel, right? I've never seen
Yep.
a car like this before or after the DeLorean, and I'm a huge Back to the Future is my main movie. Like it's my all-time favorite movie.
Hell
So
yeah.
I've seen it. I just seen it with my kids for the first time, and they're my kid. I just ordered him from Halloween costumes, the costume of Marty McFly, bro, from all three
Nice.
sequels. He's like he wants to dress up. I was like, yes,
That's
mission
sick.
accomplished. Um, so he's like, no, but the costume comes with the car. I said, no. It's a $20,000 on eBay and it's a piece of shit. I'm not buying that. It's a garbage.
That's hilarious.
But
Yeah,
I'll
man.
build. I told him I'll build you a cardboard one. I said, yeah, good enough.
Good enough. Yeah. You'll get,
Yeah,
I mean,
good
you have
enough.
to shape, just angles. It's not that hard. You can do that with
But
cardboard.
the crazy thing about the DeLorean, by the way, the car was already dead. The company was dead when they made the movie.
Mhm.
And he actually saw the movie and he wrote them a letter. He was already, you remember that he had the shit with the drug charges, and like he was like, and he wrote them a letter and he basically said, hey, thank you. Like he absolutely was blown away.
Yeah.
But there's
Yeah.
the guy who played Biff in the movie. His
Mhm.
name is Tom Wilson. So he has this song, like this comical song, and he sings in the song all the questions that people ask him. Do you want to hear it before we go?
Sure. Why not?
You've seen the movie, right?
Of course. All three. Yeah. One of my favorite. I still think the first one was better than the second one, which was better than the third one. But the third one's still a good movie. But the first one's still my favorite.
Okay. So I'm gonna share screen. Hold on. It's called the Question Song.
Okay.
Where is it? Okay, I found
The
it.
question song.
I'm pulling it up. Hold on a second.
In the meantime,
I found-
patreon.com/Tom Nash. Come on now.
Yeah, we're going over there
Grift
in a
this guy.
second. Grift me. Okay, I found it. So
Let me see.
now, how do I share a video with audio? I know how. I know how.
Do share screen and then just make sure you hit the check mark for audio.
You have to do Chrome tab for this to work.
Okay.
Okay.
I think
Can you
that's-
see it on the screen right now?
I can. Yep. Tom Wilson.
By the way,
Tannen.
Look at what I'm getting suggested right now. The Last of Us episode 1 full breakdown. And I've already watched everything online about it. Every interview. I'm super. It was just watch it, bro, so we can talk about it.
Okay, we'll do.
Anyways, so
Guitar
this is
coming
that.
out.
We're just gonna watch that, get demonetized, and leave.
Perfect.
When I'm flying in a plane or I'm on the street, there's a lot of friendly people that I like to meet. They shake my hand but never ask my name, and they start asking questions that are always the same. Hey, what's Michael J. Fox like? He's nice. What's Christopher Lloyd like? Kind of quiet. What's Crispin Glover like? Unusual. Stop asking me the question. Went to the bar mitzvah of my nephew Josh. Now I'm not Jewish, but I like to nosh. Put on my yarmulke, started to pray. When the rabbi leaned over and I heard him say, "Hey, was that real manure?" No, it wasn't. How was that DeLorean? A piece of garbage. Do those hoverboards fly? It's a movie. Stop asking me the question.
Anyways,
That's
you get
great.
the point.
That's
I
fantastic.
just gave you a taste. It's on YouTube.
I love
you
it.
Can watch it.
I love
Piece
it.
of garbage.
That was pretty
He's
funny.
one of the most underrated comics ever. Because I've seen his act.
I didn't
He's
even
good,
know he
but,
was a comic, dude. Like that's how
But
little I know
that
about his
Biff
career.
character just fucking stuck so bad.
Yeah.
He's Biff
yeah.
forever, and that's
Yeah.
he's incredible. He was actually bullied a lot as a kid, and he said
Really?
that playing this role was actually like full circle for him. I was like,
Wow, for real, right? It's like almost like cathartic.
shout out to Uncultured Currency, my friend here in the chat. And with that,
Yes.
and by the way, shout out to Ishan for the 100. Is this rupees? I think it's rupees,
Yeah, I
donation.
believe so.
There's going to be a massive rap presentation industry popping up for Cybertruck. Yeah, good point. Millennials,
Yup.
Gen Zs. Yep.
It's going to be
Agreed.
in every single rap hip hop video in the next once it launches for the
Yeah.
next 12 months, guaranteed.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, we're moving on to the Patreon Zoom. We'll see you there in just a minute. I'm gonna send you the invite link on Twitter in the DM, so
Sounds
you
good.
can hop on there. I'll see you
Cool.
there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Hugs
you,
and
everybody.
kisses.
Thank you,
We'll see you on
Tom.
the Zoom in a second.
Bye bye.